I'm a father of a 16-years-old daughter. I own a one-bathroom middle-sized house where me, my wife, her widow sister and her two kids, 13 and 16, live. My daughter had issues with her mother and requested to live with me permanently. I had the legal stuff finalized and my daughter moved in with us a month ago. She and her stepmom get along. So far everything was going well. My daughter had her period days ago. Nothing new, nothing strange except my sister-in-law came to me complaining about my daughter leaving used pads in the bathroom, causing her sons to see them. I asked where exactly and she said in the trash can. I laughed in her face asking if she thought this was abnormal or strange. She got upset that I didn't understand her point and wanted me to listen carefully as she explained that her boys are pretty young and shouldn't be subjected to witness stuff like that. I said I'll see what I can do. I talked to my daughter and made sure she wasn't just leaving her used pads in full display inside the trash can. Turns out she wraps them in toilet paper, which is enough in my opinion. I told my sister-in-law there was no problem then and she should quit being too sensitive over her boys. She got mad saying I was dismissing her concerns and reminded me her oldest has blood phobia and my daughter, even though doing it unintentionally, keeps leaving her pads exposed. I welcomed any ideas to fix this and she suggested my daughter throw her used pads outside the house. I stopped arguing at the point because of how ridiculous she was being. She threatened to change the bathroom door lock if I don't do something, but I laughed her off. My daughter called me the next day after getting back from school, saying her step-aunt refused to let her use the bathroom and was keeping it locked. She had to use her new friend's neighbor bathroom but called to let me know. I was so livid I went home and blew up at my sister-in-law. She apologetically said the lock was only for when my daughter tries to leave her pads inside and she would have allowed her if she agreed to put her used pads elsewhere, but my daughter was stubborn. I told her she was out of her mind to get a new lock for my door in my own house and keep my daughter from accessing the bathroom. I removed it quickly and she kept lashing, then called my wife. My wife came to calm us down, but I told her and sister-in-law that I have no problem kicking her out. My sister-in-law started crying. My wife said her sister is a widow and will be homeless without us. I said I stopped giving a crap the minute she tried to keep my daughter out the bathroom. I demanded she leaves, but my wife said I was unfair to those kids. I bluntly said not my problem, she has 6 days to move out. Not the idiot. Sister-in-law went way too far. Periods exist. Sharing a bathroom with 3 women means occasionally having to see a wrapped-up pad. Also, has sister-in-law not been working this whole time? She has teenagers. There is no reason for her to be laying up in your house all day every day. I ask because unless there's a complete housing shortage or she's absolutely broke and refusing to take assistance, there is no reason for her and the boys to be homeless. Have sister-in-law sons actually said anything within earshot of anyone else? Is this even a son's problem, or just a sister-in-law problem? Even if the sons did take issue with it, it's not your daughter's problem, they just need to be educated. Why is anyone digging around in a bathroom bin anyway? A bathroom bin is primarily for sanitary products in most cases, surely. It's only going to be inflated into an issue if sister-in-law makes it regardless of how old they are, and your daughter should not even get a hint that a period is anything to feel shame about. While I empathize with your sister-in-law not wanting to be homeless, what the actual heck? Why is it such a problem? Also, those boys are plenty old enough to learn what happens to bodies other than their own. Get a second trash can with a lid in the bathroom, especially for pads. Problem solved, except for the fact that your sister-in-law has taken things too far already. Denying someone the bathroom in their own house because of some problem she made up. Did the boys ever mention anything even? I'm so lost and agog. My 42 son is 16 years old and about a year ago, he started hanging out with an unhealthy crowd. I have been giving him detentions of all kinds, but it only made him rebel against me, so I stopped and let him figure it out for himself. A few weeks ago, the worst happened. I got a call from the police station that my son had participated in an attempted theft. As soon as I got the call, I told my husband and we went to the police station. They told us that my son and his friends tried to steal stuff from some man's car, and when the man came and saw them, he had a heart attack due to previous heart problems. His friends all ran away, but he stayed with the man, called the ambulance, and helped him take his chest pain medicine. Luckily he is okay now. When we got home, my husband was furious and he kept yelling at him, but I tried to stay rational and asked my son to tell me everything. Then he broke crying and told me how I was right about his friends and how horrible they are. He then said that his friends came to the idea to steal a wallet and a mobile phone they saw on the passenger seat in a car. He told them that it was a dumb idea and that they should drop it, but they didn't listen. He then didn't help them, but didn't stop them either. He saw the man coming but didn't tell them because he hoped for him to catch them in the act, but when the man came, he got so shocked that he started holding his chest and he fell on his knees. His friends then ran away, but he helped him. Now, the man has returned from the hospital. Also, he will be pressing charges against all the boys, including my son. Don't get me wrong, I know that my son did a bad thing, but I think it's a little unfair to treat him the same as the other boys who ran away. So I visited the man, and after a while of chatting, I asked him if he could drop the charges against my son because, after all, he was the one who helped him. The man then got furious and told me that I'm a bad mother and a horrible person for even asking such a thing of him. After I got home, I told my husband about what happened, and he was also mad at me. He said that our son has to face the consequences of his actions, but I disagree because a criminal record of this nature will ruin his life. So, am I the idiot? You're the idiot. If this is a criminal case, it is the police who file charges or drop charges based on whether they think they can get a conviction. It is not up to the victim to decide. Your role as a parent is to get a lawyer for your son and to follow the advice of that lawyer. The lawyer may be able to cut a deal for your son if he testified against his former friends, which he may or may not be willing to do. Don't go tampering with witnesses or intimidating them. Your son is old enough to know right from wrong. That man has every right to press charges against your son. Maybe your son didn't act on what his friends were doing, but he didn't stop it either. Your husband is right. He does have to face the consequences for his actions. A criminal record of this nature will ruin his life. Your son should have thought about that before hanging with the wrong crowd. You're the idiot. But I don't think you are in a bad way. Now hear me out, I want to stress something, coming from someone who is a teenager. When I was 16, I blamed stuff on my friends and played innocent too. He was caught doing it and was more than likely playing along with his friends cause that's how it goes. I'm not saying your son is a liar, but now if my friends are doing something wrong, I walk away or step out of the car so I'm not held accountable. It's a valuable lesson to learn, don't hang with the wrong crowd and be smart enough to walk away when they are doing something you shouldn't be involved in. I have 2 daughters. It was my daughter Adaya's 9th birthday, so I had a couple family members and friends over for a mini party and some cake. Adaya had her 2 friends over, so I allowed my younger daughter Elise, 5, to have her friend over. Aside from that, my parents and my husband's parents were there, and so was my brother and his wife and kids. We had a buffet in the kitchen and a YouTube playlist on the TV and some board games out in the living room. My brother has 2 sons. My brother is a bit older than me, so his sons are 19, Thomas, and 15, James. James is on the spectrum and has an Asperger's diagnosis. James was playing upstairs on his box, while Thomas was alternating between hanging out with his brother and the adults. My brother was playing hide and seek with my daughter and her friend. It was a sort of twist, where when they got caught my brother would chase them, and they'd run away laughing and screaming. They weren't being unbearably noisy or letting our piercing screams or anything or being unbearable. They were upstairs for about 10 minutes playing until we heard them laughing, and then a very loud shut up from James. It wasn't just an attitude shut up, he screamed it to the point everyone downstairs stopped what they were doing for a moment and looked concerned. My 5-year-old was in tears, as any 5-year-old would be after being screamed at like that, and so was her friend. I told James he had to leave. My brother understood, but sister-in-law was furious that I kicked him out instead of quieting my noisy kids, and that it wasn't fair on him to be punished for being disabled while my kid gets off scot-free. I told her I'm not punishing him, but he's upset my daughter in her own house and he has to leave, and that it wasn't up for debate. My parents agreed, my brother agreed. The only person who took issue and called me ableist was my sister-in-law. I don't think badly of James, I get it, being autistic comes with many challenges including being sensitive to sound, but I'm not having the party ruined further for my daughters by his presence, and in this case they come first and he had to leave. Sister-in-law is furious and won't speak to any of us or my parents until I apologize to her and James. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. I can empathize with your sister-in-law in that she wants to protect and advocate for her son, but she can't expect that his mood be the #1 priority in every situation. Your daughter and her friend were scared to tears during her party at her house, a time and place where she has every right to play and make a bit of noise. Asking James to leave doesn't mean you aren't willing to accommodate him and be understanding at other times, but he doesn't trump all others every time in every way. You are not ableist for putting your daughter first here. Raising a child who is autistic is challenging. You can ask my mom, who raised an autistic son and a daughter with ADHD, high-functioning anxiety and depression. That was difficult itself, and we've had to leave places because of outbursts when I was younger. To some it can seem like the world is against their child and can be more on the defensive than other parents. You're doing your best, but screaming "shut up" to a child that's only 5 is something that shouldn't be tolerated. Unfortunately, you cannot do really anything. Not the idiot for putting your child first. I have an autistic nephew and a younger daughter in the exact age group as you, so I have experience in this. Guess what? It didn't work out too well. She loves him to death and they get along pretty well, but any outburst is absolutely unacceptable, and it's dealt with swiftly. You made the right call. All these people who are calling you an idiot have no idea what it's like, so ignore them. What will happen next is your daughter will want to play with him, and he might violently lash out, like shove her without any regard to his own strength, and harm her. I know this firsthand. You aren't an ableist, and anyone who says that is the true idiot. I'm in my freshman year of college and I live in a suite-style dorm with 3 other guys. We were all watching football together yesterday and we decided to order some pizzas and wings. The total came out to about $60 including tip. I paid with my card and Venmo requested the 3 roommates an equal amount. The roommate who was giving me a problem I'm gonna call Pat. Here's the background info you all should know. So my parents give me an allowance of $400 per month for spending money. I don't work on campus because my parents want me to focus on my classes, so that's why they give me money to use to go out and occasionally eat out. I have a meal plan I use for the dining hall. I don't know any of my roommates' financial situations. I know 2 of them work, including Pat, but we really don't talk about finances. They do know I receive this money from my parents because I've bought certain things like condiments for us to share. Well, Pat had an issue with the even split for the pizza. He claims it is unfair that I receive money from my parents and that he is spending his own money on the pizza, but I am spending my parents'. Basically, Pat thinks I should have paid for a larger amount of the pizza than the rest of them. He thinks I should have paid for half and then the rest of them split the other half. Not sure why he thought that was the most fair way to go about this, but that was his idea. I get my allowance from my parents, but have to plan and have a budget because if I run out they aren't giving me more until the next month. I think Pat is being unreasonable, and I don't quite get how he thinks he has a reasonable argument. Like, I'm sorry Pat, but my parents don't give me money to buy you food. I'm not sure what to do here. He ended up paying me, but is being salty about it still. Not the idiot. It doesn't matter where you get the money from. That's absolutely ridiculous that he thinks your parents' money should be subsidizing everyone else's share. The money you get from your parents is your money, just like the money he may get from his job is his money. The source doesn't matter, and I hope you don't ever cave into his idiotic demand. Also, I would refrain from paying for group things with your card anymore. You don't want it to come to where he completely refuses to pay you back. I have no idea how I could possibly thought that it was a reasonable thing to say. Your parents are giving you money that they are earning. They are doing this to give you the chance of focusing on your studies. Why shouldn't you spend the money on his pizza is completely crazy for me. Furthermore, I would like to add that if you can't do something because you are tight with money, it's perfectly fine. But nobody should expect by anybody to pay for their fun moments. Not the idiot. Hope he's going to pay everything, and I hope the other roommate said something to him. I've seen when couples rent a space together, they will often agree to a percentage, so if one person is making $100K a year and their partner $20K, the larger earner pays a larger percentage. That is the only case I can see where that makes sense. Here, you're not in any kind of committed relationship. The agreement was to split the cost of the pizza. It's not up to you to make life fair for him, you're under no obligation to subsidize his pizza eating. For a few years now my grandmother has been living with us, my dad, my older brother and sister, myself, and my little sister. My older sister's husband, brother-in-law, moved in 7 months ago. My older brother and I take care of my grandmother. Fortunately she's healthy enough for a 60-year-old woman and can take care of herself, but she couldn't take care of her house anymore, that's why she moved in. Between my older brother and I, he works from home, I take online classes, we take care of her and make sure she's content throughout the day. Lately, my brother-in-law has been talking about his grandmother needing a place to stay. He commented how we take care of my grandma really well and she has better meals to eat, whereas his doesn't have the same treatment where she lives. My sister then offered to have her live here and share a room with my grandmother. She, without our permission, said my brother and I would take care of her. I told both of them no, I would not take care of her, and my brother said the same, and my dad backed us up. I told him as bad as I felt for her, I couldn't take care of her because, as he said, she needed medications given to her specific times throughout the day, she has a very strict diet, and she needed someone to bathe her and change her. A few days later he brought her over with a duffel bag, some blankets, and said she was kicked out of the place she was staying at and would only need to stay here a few days. I told him he'd need to get those days off for work because I would not be taking care of her. He walked away pissed off and I assume went to tell my sister because she came to me and said I could watch her a few days as a trial run and see if I could adjust to caring for her. I said both to my brother-in-law and sister, if he left her with me I'll call Adult Protective Services because I won't take care of her. My sister called me an idiot and said she had no other family to go with and he doesn't want to put her anywhere else. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You, your brother and your father said no. That should have been the end of it. The fact that they tried to move her in any way is freaking absurd. This woman needs skilled nursing care. You are not trained or experienced in offering that care. Neither is your brother. If she can't toilet or change herself, she is at a very real risk of developing a UTI if not moved every 2 hours, and you are neither willing nor able to provide that level of care. It absolutely would be neglectful to even try to do so, and you would be opening yourself up for a civil lawsuit for adult neglect. As a former caregiver, she needs way more attention than what you and your brother are not only used to, but capable of. Changing and bathing someone is huge and not for everyone. Like you said, she needs a specific diet and needs to be changed and bathed. You both are not licensed caregivers, and it is a strain having to care for more than one person, especially with those needs. You have every right to refuse, and if they keep pushing, tell them they can care for her if they are so worried. Please do not feel bad if you do have to call APS, they are literally abandoning her without anyone else's regard. This sounds like a very full household, and everyone needs to be consulted about new members. Especially your grandmother, who is being asked to share her own bedroom. Your sister and brother-in-law are the idiots for completely disregarding your very clear no and staging a, probably fake, eviction to get their way. Furthermore, the care level expected is not equivalent at all to what you provide now. Keeping house is very different from providing personal care. Finally, you are taking online classes. Even if you had consented, your caregiving availability may change drastically after graduation.